It's week 32 of the golfing calendar. And now, live from the Australian Golf Centre, home of the PGA of Australia and Golf Australia, this is Talk Birdietome with Nick O'Hearn and Mark Allen.
Righto, are we pushing the button yet or not?
Yeah, we're away.
Oh, I didn't know that. So, Lucas Glover doesn't wear a glove. That's ridiculous. I mean, what are the odds on that? The only golfers I can think of in the modern era who haven't worn gloves are Fred and Lucas. That's it. Yeah. So you think of all the golfers that have played, thousands and thousands of professional golfers at a reasonable level, and Lucas, whose last name is Glover, doesn't wear a glove.
Doesn't wear a glove. Yeah.
That's just ridiculous.
Corey Pavin is another one, but is he the modern era? I don't know.
Yeah,
I suppose you could.
Yeah, I'll
Sorry,
put him
Corey.
in the modern era. I'll put him in the modern era.
Okay,
that's for sure. I loved. I mean, we got to talk about Bryson first, but I want to get back. I want to get back onto to the FedEx Cup. Bryson DeChambeau has shot 119 in 2 rounds of golf, and he's done that to win a tournament.
I know a lot of people that have done that for 1 round of golf.
Yeah, stacks. 119 shots, Nick. I mean, honestly, I know it was a par 70.
Yes, at the Greenbrier. I've played there many times.
What's it like? Is it a tough course?
It's gettable. That's where Stuart Appleby shot his 59. Remember that?
Yeah.
To win the golf tournament as well. He birdied the last to shoot 59. And it was playing soft. I saw a couple of the highlights. There was a bit of rain.
Was it playing soft? Well, absolutely.
Yeah. It was.
My God,
I'm assuming it was preferred lies. I'm guessing.
Well,
if there was some rain, I would assume there was.
Maybe.
The scoring was insane, though.
Just on that, Mr. 59, Al Geiberger, not many people know this. That was a preferred lie day.
Was it really?
Yes, it was.
Does it count with preferred lies then?
Well, it's a really good point you ask. I met Al Geiberger once, and he gave me his card, and this is magnificent. He gave me the card, and it's got Al Geiberger.
Oh, his business card. His
business card. Al Geiberger, Mr. 59, a phone number, blah, blah, blah. And he goes, open it up. I said, what are you talking about? He goes, open it up. And I opened it up, and that was his score. His scorecard was there. So his card was a folded card, but then you open it up, and it was his 59, which was pretty cool. Anyway.
That's an awesome ego trip right there.
I know. But I asked him. I said, because I'd had about 15 beers, and I was at the Masters, and he was speaking at this dinner. So I asked him, I said, someone told me a long time ago, and I don't know whether it's true or not, but I don't want it to be true, Al. Was it preferred lies when you shot the 59? He goes, yes, it was.
Wow.
Really up front. There it was, bang.
And his was a 13 under too, because it was on a par 72.
Par 72, and he did it with a persimmon driver.
Impressive.
I used to watch. Makes it very impressive.
Did you ever watch his Cybervision video?
No.
He put out something years and years ago. Yeah. It was called Cybervision, and it was basically, it was like a, not neuro-linguistic programming, but it was kind of that style of mental training where you just sit and watch and absorb the golf swing, and it gave you the best rhythm ever. So if anyone's out there still got a copy of, I was trying to find one the other day, but I can't find it anymore.
No. Well,
anyway.
he did have a beautiful swing. Oh, Al Geiberger.
Well, he had the perfect swing.
He did.
That's what they said.
But back to Bryson. You know, it looks like he's not going full lunatic, but the ball speed's still in the 190s, Nick.
It is way up there, and he spoke afterwards about this new driver that he's been using recently called a crank driver, which apparently K-R-A-N-K, crank. Right. It's won multiple world-long driving championships.
Yes, that's what I've heard before.
He was a bit coy about it as well, which I'm not quite sure why, but afterwards he says, look, I don't want to say too much about it, but it's fantastic for golfers that had over 175 mile per hour ball speed.
Which
pretty much counts out everyone. except those.
Except for Rory, Tiger.
Top guys.
Yeah, the top guys.
Yeah.
Top.
He just said, look, I hit it in the toe, hit it in the heel, everything goes straight. So we've spoken about the rules and rolling back the ball and all that. For me, it's the driver is a massive influence on it. These modern day drivers, the way kids are able to grow up now, just smashing the hell out of it, hit it anywhere on the face, and it tends to go fairly straight. Look, it still does go wide, but apparently he's found one where it just keeps going straight, and with his power, he's just going to over dominate golf courses.
And no doubt the driver face has evolved with the missile ball that is designed not to spin with the longer clubs and to take some spin with the wedges. I've told you this before. I went to TaylorMade a long time ago when I was playing TaylorMade clubs. And where's there in San Diego? And you walk through the front door, and underneath the big TaylorMade sign, it says, "You don't have to be a rocket scientist to work here, but it helps." and that's true. I mean, what they have done with the golf ball and their ability to just get it inches out of their equipment is just incredible from the Pro Sim and hallmarks I had when I was a kid.
Yeah, all the manufacturers, they're just sort of flaunting that line between what is legal and what is not. And we've had conversations about this where in testing, it's all perfectly legal, but after you hit the driver a number of times over a period, it can actually become illegal because the face changes slightly. Yeah. So that's why they're constantly doing this testing. But look, at the same time, Bryson, he birdied the last 4 holes to shoot 58. First time a sub-60 score in live golf, so they were obviously over the moon. The commentator, Arlo White, got a little bit excited, as you can imagine, at the end. But you've still got to hold the putts, and he just rolled everything in pure. And the greens were pure too. They were soft. They were pure. It's just a great combination for low scoring.
That putt on the last was so perfect.
Yeah, he needed 2 putts for 59, didn't he?
Yeah, and I reckon he was trying just to get it close, and it went in the perfect speed right in the middle. It was impressive.
I would imagine one of the cameramen got his leap in the air too, which will be going all over the world. It's probably a little bit higher leap than what Phil Mickelson did at the Masters when he won, if you remember that jump.
Yeah,
I think he got about 6 inches off the ground.
In saying all that, though, 58's a great. And live golf, good luck to him. It's not my cup of tea, but good luck to him. It's good to watch when something like that's going on. But I've got to say, at the Wyndham Championship, the last tournament before the FedEx Cup, watching all the players that were on bubbles was sensational viewing.
It was good, wasn't it? Bubble boy watch.
Incredible. It was incredible to watch the twists and turns of Justin Thomas. Cam Davis started the week at number 69, needed to make the cut. Did make the cut, shot 4 under in the last round when he was, really needed something.
Adam Scott.
Oh,
that was a little painful at the end there for him. I mean, he finished beautifully, shot birdied 4 of his last 6 holes to shoot 63, and as it turned out, missed out by a shot. And now did you know this? He has made every FedEx Cup playoffs since it started, 16 in a row. And now there's only one person remaining that has that streak, Matt Kuchar. And he made the playoffs again. I thought Matt would be ready for the seniors tour, actually, but he's still only probably mid-40s. So
I'm just having a look at some of the Aussie guys. So Jason Day's in at number 11. Cam Davis has got through at number 62. Scotty's missed at 72. Aaron Baddeley missed at 96. Harrison Endicott, great first season, really. I mean, he's finished 129th, but
he's got time.
Yeah.
So the thing about the playoffs is now they're going into this three tournament playoffs. It used to be 4, 125 made the playoffs. Now it's just top 70. This is the first season they've done it. So the players who finish outside the top 70, then they're going to play that fall series. There's about 7 events after the playoffs, and that will determine the rankings from 51 and onwards, basically.
Right. So tell me this: Aaron Baddeley at 96.
Yes,
he'll be playing in that fall series.
He will. Top 125 keep the card at the end of the season. Remember that.
What about Cameron Percy? Because he always seems to finish at 152, which he's done again. And he's had a long life on the PGA Tour, Cameron Percy. He has squeezed every little bit of juice out of his lemon. He really has. I just wish he'd just have a cracking year, 1 year.
Just a few years keep his card in a row would be nice. He's in that 126 to 150 category a bit throughout his career, and he's been on Corn Ferry, then up on the PGA Tour a few times. But you're right, he just hasn't had that real breakout year, and he is one of the best ball strikers on tour from tee to green.
Remember when he lost the playoff to a hole-in-one?
Yes.
In night? It was darkness. Who was the little guy who did it?
Jonathan
Bird.
That's
Jonathan
the one.
Bird, B-Y-R-D.
In Vegas.
Yeah, that's right.
In Vegas, where he made the hole out. Walk-off.
Lucas Herbert, 153, Greg Chalmers, 218. So those guys, pretty limited. What's Greg going to do? He's good on Twitter, Greg Chalmers.
He's great. Yeah, well, again, he'll probably get some starts in this fall series again. I'm not sure if they're calling it a fall series anymore, but the tournament's after the playoffs. Him and Jeff Ogilvy is another one. He's just outside the 200 as well. So all those guys will be playing for their playing rights next season. But the guy who was watching that bubble the most was Ben Griffiths, because he was 68 going into it.
Yeah.
And he missed the cut. And he was floating. He was like 70, 71, 70, 69, 72. He was going all over the place. And as it turned out, only one player, this was fascinating for me, one player outside the top 70 got into the top 70 that week. And that was Lucas Glover.
Oh, you're kidding me.
He went from 112th, leapt up 63 spots to 49. I thought there would have been a few, but he was the only one.
What about Justin Thomas? Did you see... they made him a very big focus.
They did.
And they put what his number was after every single hole. I think he started at 72, got the 71, got the 70.
When he made the eagle on 15, he got to 70.
Got to 70, that's right. Didn't he bogey the very next hole?
Bogeyed 16.
And he didn't move. He went from 70, stayed at 70, then he's finished par. But his chip at the last, he hit a drive left and he was in the trees on the pine straw. Hit this massive big hook to the front of the green.
Shocking 18th hole, by the way.
Is it?
It's terrible. Well, the drive's straight downhill and then you got this uphill. It's just, it's not a good finishing hole.
Too much, is it?
It's just a very strong par 4. If you hit a good drive down there, but then you're off this downhill lie trying to hit a high shot. I mean, that's... But if you're long enough, you can get down a bit further onto the flat. But not me. I was obviously halfway down the hill trying to hit a high 4-iron off a downhill lie, which is not really my strength.
Anyway. God. Anyway, if you didn't see it, his chip jars out of the hole. I'm not sure whether it had much spin on it. It might have gone about 10 foot par. I don't know. But, gee, it would have been so big. Like, if that went in, that would have gone around the world, I reckon, around the golf world.
Yeah, I tell you, Zach Johnson's got a tough job coming up with the Ryder Cup because JT, I know his form hasn't been great, but he's been showing something. And when it counted, he did show something. So there's I'm sure a lot of live people going, well, Bryson should be in now, and Koepka and possibly DJ and Gooch. Who's he going to pick? That's going to be very interesting to watch in the next. I think he's got 2 more weeks before he has to decide.
So I'm just going to give you one name from that. Gooch. He's the interesting one to me. Won back-to-back, Australia and Singapore. Form stays pretty well.
Yeah, he's number 1 on the live rankings.
So he's an uncomplicated player. We know he's got a very rich caddy. G'day, Malcolm Baker.
Yep.
Would you sneak him in, that team? I'd sneak him in. I would.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I don't know Taylor, and I don't know the team dynamics of who's, what Zach's thinking, because sometimes these captains' picks comes down to personalities.
Yeah.
Okay. Are they going to gel well with the team? We know DJ will, because he's just kind of laid back and does whatever. Yeah. Yep. Brooks is going to be in there probably on points.
Yep.
He's not the biggest team player, so if he was like 10 on the points list and had to get a captain's pick, I'm not sure they pick him, but he's probably going to get in.
Yeah, he'll get in.
Bryson. There's another tough one on the team bonding side of things. So
coming off 119 for 36 holes, it's hard to say no.
I know, but and he's driving the ball great. And Marco Simone, where the Ryder Cup's going to be in Italy, you're going to need to drive the ball very well around there because the rough, I've heard, is going to be crazy high.
Hey, news broke last week, right after we recorded our podcast last week, that Tiger Woods has joined the Tour Advisory Board on the PGA Tour. Now, this was big news. I don't think it got covered here very well. What does that signal to you straight away? Now, I was a member of the PGA Tour in '94. I can't even remember what was going on, but you were there for a long, long time.
Yeah.
So the PGA Tour Advisory Board, is that player-driven or is that...
It's a mix. There's 12 people on the policy board, as they call it. 6 of them are players. And what they do, they have categories of the players. You have, the top 20 or 30 category, and then the next 30, and so on. You have all these names that the players vote on who they want on there. And I never got chosen to be on there, so I don't know much about the policy board.
Was your name up?
Oh, yeah, I was always on the list, if they wanted to choose me. But, just like at the moment, for instance, the 6 players who are directors on the policy board are Tiger, Cantlay, Charlie Hoffman, Peter Malnati, Rory McIlroy, and Webb Simpson.
Right.
So there's a real spread of players across, where they are on the rankings and things like that. The other 6 guys are, it was Randall Stevenson, who was the AT&T CEO, but obviously he left because he wasn't comfortable with the PIF. I don't know who else is on there. I'm sure it was Jimmy Dunn and those sorts of guys that are involved in the executive roles of the PGA Tour. But they decide the policies going forward. I know Tiger's his first big issue that he wants to happen, because there has been talk about the invitationals like the Bay Hill, the Arnold Palmer, the Jack Nicklaus, which is the Memorial, Tiger's event. Yeah. There was talk about them being no cuts, but he wants them to have a cut.
Right.
So he's going to have a bit of an influence in that regard because he's a big believer in cuts because obviously he had the record cut streak and things like that, and that's the cutthroat nature of golf. And I think cuts should be a part of the game going forward. I'm not a fan of no cut events myself.
No, I love the cut. I absolutely love cuts because it's something to watch.
Absolutely.
This is one of the most important things. If you've got a 4-round event, you've got to have, JT is going to miss another cut.
Well, we saw with the bubble, right? The guys who are fighting. I mean, I'm sure throughout your career, you've had certain, cue skills or whatever. I've had it in mind. What have you been on that bubble at times?
Oh, yeah. I remember there was one year when I was 62nd and it was a top 60 was going to be exempt in Australia.
Yeah.
So I needed to make the cut at the last tournament of the year, which was the Coolum Classic back in those days.
Loved it.
Which was great. Anyway, I was on the cut line coming down down the 36th hole, and I knew what the cut was going to be, and I fit in the trap, and I've holed the trap shot.
Is this on 18?
On 18, on my 18th. It was on the 9th.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
So
par 4, great little hole.
Little one, the water all the way down the right. So I made the cut.
Wow.
And then I managed to play reasonably well on the weekend, but not that well. So
you were outside the bubble.
So the 18th hole at Coolum more than anybody. It is a daunting hole, and I always had the lefts as a player, right? And there's water all the way left.
It's not a good hole for a left-hander, I tell you.
Anyway, we figured out that I just needed a par to keep my card, and I remember hitting it all the way down the right. I hit in the traps, and then I hit it into the traps again on the right-hand side to stay away, and I've gone up and down from the trap. And I ended up finishing 58th.
Oh, well done.
But that was my experience. The bubble is a rotten joint.
It's
a horrible place to be.
I thought you were going to tell me a horror story there.
No.
Yeah, I needed to par the last 1 year as well, but that was to win the tournament, and I didn't. So.
Yeah, that's right. But you won the playoff.
But it all worked out well. Yeah, I had the same thing at a Q school, European Q school. I came to my final hole. They have a 4-round cut.
Right.
6 rounds, final stage, and I needed to make birdie on this par 5.
Right.
To make it through to the last 2 days.
Gettable in 2?
Yes, I was in a greenside bunker, and like you, I hold my bunker shot for eagle. Eagle. And I ended up getting the 26th out of 30th card, so that really kicked me on. So it's little instances like that in a pro's career. Sometimes making a cut on the number can be more than having a top 10 finish because it just gets you over the hump to the following week to go, right, okay, my game's now in good shape. Whereas if you miss out on those 2 days of competitive golf, then you're kind of left wondering a bit and you're still fighting the mental demons, and then you miss 3 or 4 cuts in a row and then you start questioning everything.
That is correct. No, the bubble's a horrible place, but that's why I loved watching the FedEx, the numbers at the Wyndham, and also just the JT, and it's just they've got stories. I love that. Now back to Tiger.
Well, just on that last point, we're going to see more bubbles over the next 2 weeks because now you've got the top 70 needs to be top 50 and then top 30. Yeah, so it's
top 30 is a big one too because you get 2 years exemption instead of 1.
Yes,
which is big news. But just going back to Tiger, I can't think of a better person I'd rather have on it to make everything work. I've just got the feeling that if Tiger's in a room with the Saudi people, I think they'll listen to him.
Oh, for sure.
I think they would. I think he'd be a hard person to say no to.
Yes,
for sure. I know he's got the game at heart. I know he's I mean, he doesn't need the money. He's not going to put things in that's going to help him. I don't think. I'd be surprised.
No, he doesn't mind a bit of cash, don't worry.
Yeah. But I'd be surprised.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
So, for instance,
he wants to keep the traditions of the game intact.
That's right. I don't think he's going to make a rule anytime soon that you can use a cart. All right.
Which we spoke about. Yes.
Which would help him. I don't think he's that type of person.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think. I think he'd be a good person to say who can come back from live.
Mm-hmm.
I think if he's in charge of that judgment, I think that wouldn't be a bad thing.
But then did you hear during the week, Phil Mickelson came out and said there is no player on this tour that wants to go back to the PGA Tour. So that's another conversation entirely. So,
yeah. Well, I'm not so sure.
Not so sure?
Phil
Okay.
can speak for everybody in that situation.
But he likes to, don't worry.
Yeah, he does like to. I think Brooks Koepka would like to come back.
I think the Live Tour is perfect for Brooks because he doesn't care about regular season events anyway. He only cares about 4 tournaments a year, so the Live Golf works out enormously well for him.
Yeah.
And he gets guaranteed money and can practice whatever he wants and then goes to the 4 majors and just competes well.
I wonder if Brooks likes travelling.
That's the downside.
They've
got to go all around the world. Yes, no, you're spot on there, actually.
So that's my query there. But I'm glad that I'm really glad that Tiger Woods is on that board, and he's put all his backing behind Jay Monahan. That surprised a lot of people, but he's basically said, "Listen, Jay's the man. I'm going to stand right behind him. He's the right guy for this job."
Yeah, it did. And the other big thing on the PGA Tour this week coming is the 2024 full schedule gets announced this week. So we'll keep an eye on that, how that all looks and shapes up.
Well, hopefully, Nick, because we always broadcast from headquarters, Australian Golf headquarters, if there is any news, we'll endeavour to get Gavin Kirkman or James Sutherland, because we're wondering what's going to happen. I mean, if the reports are correct and it's $1 billion buy-in from the PIF, I heard it was $2 billion, but if it's $1 billion, let's just go that way. That's a lot of money.
It is.
And we want some of it.
And spread it around the world. That would be nice.
We want some of it. We want to be looked after.
Yeah, well, our schedule here in Australia just got released last week. They had a big announcement, the PGA, Gavin Kirkman down at Sandhurst Golf Club. So we've got a nice little schedule coming up before Christmas. Look forward to doing the TV commentary.
I sent you a little bit of footage before, and it was Lucas Glover putting with his long putter.
Oh, yes.
Now, I reckon that is anchoring. Now,
Okay.
I'm using my best judgment.
Yes.
When I look at that video footage, I think he's anchoring. What about you?
I've seen worse, I will say that. From what you sent me, where he puts his left hand up against his shirt, he's definitely indenting into the buttons and the creases.
Yeah.
It looks if he is touching his chest, it's a light touch. And the rule is written, again, this is where it comes down to the vagaries of the rules, and we can get into that after the turn, but it's all about the intent.
You can accidentally anchor.
Accidentally. I didn't intend to put it against my chest, but yeah, I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
I've seen worse, and looking at it, it doesn't look great.
We've just finished up. We've just putted out in the front 9.
Okay.
On the back 9, I'm going to call Stuart McPhee, who is a rules expert. I've sent him the footage, and he'll give us his view.
Love it.
Like the podcast? Oh, maybe tell a friend. Drop them a text or share it on your socials. This is Talk Birdie to Me with Nick O'Hearn and Mark Allen.
Right, you finished your party pie? You ready to go on the back 9?
Certainly am.
Just before we get to Stuart McPhee, I'm really looking forward to this because Stuart's one of our highest ranked working rules officials that we have, one of the best we've got. And he knows his stuff. He's actually got a podcast on rules.
Fantastic.
So we'd ask what the name is when we get to him. But there's big news. We talked about Lafia last week, and we had Dan, a Lafian intro last week. Thank you so much for that. And did it work?
Well, it appears to, Nick. Whatever you did, now you took this on. You took this as a responsibility to fix the issue. Whatever you did worked because we have got 2.
I love it.
Listeners in Latvia.
Well, I have to thank Bruce Shaw, who I played golf with. His son-in-law obviously made the call across the family in Latvia, and we've done it. We've broken the market.
I'm glad to say. I think we leave that there. We did have one person who wrote in and said, "How about you look at Poland now because you've got 0 there." I think we'll leave that.
Righto. I reckon Lucas Glover was anchoring, only just, but anchoring.
Okay.
And you're not so sure.
Touch and go.
Righto. Well, Stuart McPhee, like I said, is a working rules official, one of the highest ranked that we have in this country. He's got his own podcast.
Mark.
G'day, Stuart. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks for having me.
What's the name of your golf rules podcast?
Golf Rules Questions.
Beautiful.
We'll have to listen in.
We're going to have to listen.
Now, I've sent you the footage that I took off my television of Lucas Glover. And it was on about the 15th or the 16th hole, and it looks highly suspicious to me, which is enough for me to say that is anchoring. Because I see other players, Stuart, like Adam Scott, who keeps his hand well away. But that one just looked like it was a step too far for me. But I'm not a rules official. Stuart, what about you?
Well, I probably think it is as well. But the problem with this particular rule is there's a big but. And the but is, how do you prove it? Now, just to clarify the actual rule about anchoring, it's just not the forearm or the hand. It actually can be the club itself, physically pressed up against the stomach or the chest. I think one thing we can be very easily fooled with is just because the forearm or the club itself touches the clothing doesn't mean there's a breach of the rule. That the club itself or the hand or the forearm has to actually sort of be, that physical anchor into that chest or the stomach. That's the issue. And I think the issue is, how do you prove it? And we've got mechanisms, ways to do that. But I think on the surface, it may look like that, but it doesn't automatically mean there's a breach of that rule.
Yeah, it looked a bit touch and go for me there, Stuart. So Mark and I have debated about this previously as well. What about Bernard Langer? Because his left arm definitely looks as though it's kind of pushing against his side and that his hand and everything is not anchored, but it looks as though his elbow and the forearm looks as though that is anchored. Have you seen his action, and what do you think of that?
Yeah, definitely have. And I think if you were to compile a list, and there's not that many on this list that actually use the long putter still, but he'd be right towards the top of that list where you'd have a suspicion of, his technique. What we would do is if we had suspicion of a player, and let's say we were officiating and saw that player and you had suspicion, the first thing you probably do is talk to the chief referee or the tournament director and just raise it with them. Another referee may have mentioned that. If there's some history there and you think, I've heard this before, maybe the tournament director might actually go and follow that player for a few holes and watch them putt and keep a closer eye on that. And I think the next step would be just simply asking the player after the round. And it really just comes back to the integrity of that player. And, if that person gets asked, hey, did you anchor? We saw you on 16. Were you anchoring? Did you press it up against your chest? And the player says no. That player has to go to bed that night and sleep well. Similar to, did you cause the ball to move? And the player goes, no, I didn't touch it. I didn't cause it to move. Okay, well, we've got nothing to counter that. So we've got to go with what the player said. And I think this particular rule, it's really hard to, unless you really saw, the whole shirt being pressed out of the way and the skin is clearly, the club is clearly being pretty forcefully put into the chest. It's a really hard one to prove. I think this one does come down to the integrity of the player. Yeah,
it is a vague one in that regard. But now, is the rule written like, and we're getting into the the weeds on this, I guess, but if the player comes back and said, well, actually, yes, I did anchor looking at that, but I didn't intend to. So is intent a big part of it?
Yeah, look, intent is a big part of a lot of rules. This is not one of them. So the reality is that if you actually do, create that anchor, that physical contact with the chest or the stomach, make that stroke. The stroke does count, but you do incur the general penalty, two strokes and stroke play for that stroke.
I've got a way around this. When you talk to the player before a round and say, give us a look at your technique, if what they show you on the practice putting green on Tuesday and Wednesday is very different on Thursday, Friday, Saturday and Sunday. So, for instance, if you can see daylight between the hand and the shirt on Tuesday and Wednesday, and then on Sunday you're seeing what I showed you, surely then you could almost come over the top of the player and say, listen, this isn't what you showed us on Tuesday and Wednesday, sport, and we've had enough and we're going to get you.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember every event is run by a committee. Has a championship committee, a tournament committee. You have a chief referee, a tournament director, you have rules officials, but there is a body of people, a committee responsible for running, whether it be the PGA or Golf Australia or whoever. There's a committee and they ultimately have ultimate authority to do what they want, realistically. There's a saying in rules, and that is the committee is always right, even when they're wrong, right? They have that much power. So they could quite comfortably step in. And, you guys know, players have certain reputations, certain players do, not all do. But they have reputation. Maybe they're a little bit close, getting to the edge with a particular breach, the way they do something, and this might fall into that category. And you would definitely have a conversation with the player. The player has a reputation to uphold. The player doesn't want to be known in the locker room as, flaunting the rules, and you guys know that. But you don't want to have that cloud over your head.
Stuart, you've been fantastic. We'd love to get you back on from time to time when we've got little questions to ask because you've been fabulous about this one.
Of course, love to.
All right, that'd be great. Thanks, Stu.
Thanks, Stuart.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for the chat.
It's nice. We've got our own rules official on tap.
How about that? Is he on the payroll, Dan? What are we going to do?
He knows his stuff.
I'll tell you what we've got to do. We've got to get him to do a top 5 rules that players think that players don't know they're breaking, that most of the time they are breaking, or something like that. We've got to get that done. Time for some results. Nick, what have you got for us?
Yeah, we've got a few this week, actually. A lot of Aussies around the world playing. We saw, obviously, Adam Scott and Cameron Davis finish tied 7th at the Wyndham Championship. On the LPGA Tour, Celine Boutier went back to back. Yes, winning the Women's Scottish Open after winning the Evian Championship.
Oh, the Evian, that's right.
It's the Women's Open this week, so she could do 3 in a row with 2 majors. Wouldn't that be something? But best of the Aussies there was Sarah Kemp, tied for 9th. And how about this from Minjee Lee, by the way?
What'd she do?
She opened with a round of 80.
She did.
She had a snowman on the first round.
Are you joking?
Comes back with 66, 68, 66 to finish tied 13th.
With an 80.
With an 80. That's one of the best comebacks I've seen. Yeah. Steph Kyriacou also finished tied for 13th. So a couple of good Aussie results
she
there.
She is becoming a human ATM herself, young Stephanie Kyriacou. Good on her.
Yeah, she's moved into the top 50 on the LPGA rankings there, which is great. On the Corn Ferry Tour, someone who has been playing well of late is Curtis Luck. He's been putting in a nice little run of form together.
The boy from Perth?
Yes.
Won a US Amateur Championship?
Correct, yeah. He finished tied for 12th at the Utah Championship, but tied for 12th this week. He only shot 17 under. I mean, normally that gets you about tied 30, but apparently it was a tougher course. The cut this week was only 6 under, could you believe? Crazy.
I saw the guy who won didn't make a bogey all week. Not one.
Unbelievable.
Unbelievable. And I saw Sean O'Hare playing too. You would have played a bit of golf with Sean O'Hare.
I did.
So he looked like he's playing half decent again.
Yeah. On the Challenge Tour, Matt Fitzpatrick's brother, remember how he beat him at the US? He won on the Challenge Tour, the British Challenge. Alex Fitzpatrick.
How good is this kid going?
Ryan Ruffles tied for 25th, solid week.
Well done, Riser.
But his sister, Gabby, tied for 4th on the Epsom Tour.
She's a must-watch.
She's just cemented her place at the top of that money list, and she'll be on the LPGA Tour next week. A couple more in Japan. Dylan Perry had a top 10, and on the Legends Tour in England, Rod Pampling, Jason Norris had top 10s. I was in Indonesia doing the Indonesian Open.
Yeah, that's right. How was it over there?
I was actually in Singapore. I wasn't in Indonesia. But Scott Hend had a great chance to win that. He was tied for the lead. Unfortunately, hooked one out of bounds and finished tied 2nd, where Nititorn Tepong won. He's a local Thai golfer, actually. I tell you what, I left a lot of the names up to my co-host. One of the best ones, though, was...
You were special comments and they announced the player coming in.
Yeah, one of the best surnames. And when you look at it, you go, oh, my gosh. But when you break it down, this one was Kausiri Bandit.
Kausiri Bandit.
Yeah, it's a great name.
Yeah.
So if he ever won a tournament, I mean, you got to go with a Bandit line or something like that. It would have been good. But it was a lot of fun over there with Tim Lowe, so thanks to Tim.
Happy Barnrat was always a scary one until you broke it down to just Happy Barnrat, and then away we went. That was easy. Well, let's get to some feedback, Dan, because we're getting stacks these days, which is great. So, folks, keep them coming. Keep those questions coming. We love it.
Plenty of comments, a couple of questions, and a couple of pump ups for you guys too, which is good. Black Panther Cycling has said, this is on your top 5 last week about the worst golfers, which was very funny. Black Panther Cycling has said, how come Aaron Baddeley doesn't get a start on the worst dressed?
Well, I don't remember him being badly dressed. So you should actually do your top 5 this week on players who have erotic names, because Lucas Glover doesn't wear a glove. So start writing a few things down now, will you please?
Yes.
And get that done.
Aaron dresses badly. Yeah, I think that was one of his nicknames for a while.
It was there for a little bit. It was for a little bit.
Other than bads.com.
Yeah.
Jake Cameron has said, always look forward to watching the masterclass after listening to the podcast about it. It's interesting, and this is on the one from last week with the intermediate line. It's interesting how many players that I play with who don't do this don't pick an intermediate target.
Yeah.
That was the spotlining masterclass, which I don't do, but I know you're a big fan of, Mark.
Well, we're getting to a lot of erotic spots here. We're going to have an ironic top 5. Yes. Nick, last week, well, we called Nico who did a spotlighting one last week, and he's never spotlighted in his life. It's a bit like, have you ever gone 10-pin bowling, Dan? You know those little arrows down there? Apparently the great 10-pin bowlers don't look at the pins all the way down the other end. They look at the little arrows.
Well, I look at the arrows, and I'm certainly not a great 10-pin bowler, but it's great fun.
Yeah, it's good fun.
If I get over 100, that's a good day.
Yeah, it is a good day. I'm with you.
On the masterclasses, this one in response to your short softy masterclass video, Nick. This was actually about, maybe 6 weeks ago.
It was to do with Hannah Green, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. Yeah, when she won in, I think it was LA.
Correct.
Kevin Courtney has said, "Hey Nick, what club are you using in this video?"
Yes, I remember that was the lob wedge actually. Yeah. So little pick off with the lob wedge, but whatever wedge, it's the same sort of shot.
Yep. Nice.
Could you do one of those with a 56?
Yes, can do that.
A 54, a short softy?
Sure.
Right.
Why not?
There you go.
Can do it all. But it's your turn for the masterclass this week.
I know.
This is a great bit of feedback here from Harlequin Farm. I don't think that's his surname. Or maybe it is his surname.
Maybe it is.
Harlequin Farm has written a really enjoyable perspective on golf from Australia featuring former pro Nick O'Hearn. Nick O'Hearn is one of those wily pros who competed on smarts and skills. Did you write this, Nick? Brings depth in the game, married with decades of experience in Europe and the US, which he shares with commentary on the events of the day and a weekly technique tip. It's punchy and witty. And the best of all, it's from outside of the US golf bubble. I appreciate the window into Australian golf and the differences in how the game fits into the culture.
Isn't that great?
I might have to get him on my payroll, I'd say.
Yeah, that's a good one.
He's pumped you up, Nicky.
He did.
No mention of you there, Mark, though.
Yeah, disappointing.
We've got another one here. This person, I'm not going to say their name because they've asked us not to.
Okay.
Hey, boys. I know this will great with you, Marco. I played Mount Lawley on Sunday with a bloke who attempted aim point on every putt.
Oh, God.
It added 15 minutes to the round, and here's the kicker. He's off a 20 handicap.
Oh, my God.
I reckon he should work on his speed of the ball. He was all over the shop. Please don't mention my name. Great podcast.
I know.
I wonder if I know him because that's my home club in Perth, Mount Lawley.
Good course.
Okay.
It's a good fun course, isn't it, Mount Lawley?
Love it. And they're OCM's redoing it at the moment.
Are they? Oh, I didn't know that.
They have a par 3 there called the Commonwealth. Did you ever play Mount Lawley?
I've played it once, but I can't remember
Many
a thing
years
apart
ago.
from it being a good fun course.
It's a great short hole. The green was in a shape of a map of Australia.
I can remember that hole.
At Tasmania
I can remember
in the bunker.
Yeah, that's right.
And over the years, it lost its shape, and they're restoring it, and it's going to be the map of Australia are going to be awesome when it's done.
Oh, that is good.
And Matthew Dunstone has said, I agree with you guys. Gimmies to players that you know would make it, especially if they go through their whole routine for even short putts, keeps the pace of play. I personally don't take any time to putt short ones, so I always putt out anyway, even if the playing partners say, no, that one's going to be good. It feels better when I earn that double bogey.
Gimmies aren't for everybody, that's for sure. There's a lot of sticklers out there, and that's fine too, because golf is your golf. You play golf the way you want to play your golf. Don't listen to anybody. Don't listen to me. Don't listen to Nick. However you want to play golf, play it that way. Just play fast, will you? That's all I can ask.
Sam Aliano has said, hey, gents, what a remarkable effort by Bryson overnight. He followed his second round 9 under 61 with a 12 under 58. Has anyone in the history of golf scored 21 under in 2 consecutive rounds?
I said, it's the lowest I've heard, and he looked it up, Sam. So thank you. There's another one we need to put on the payroll, is old Sam.
Wow.
Because he was doing some research for it. It looked like, from what I can remember, because I haven't got his tweet in front of me, it was either 121 or 122.
Oh, my God.
Was the previous record.
What did Taylor Gooch shot back-to-back 62s, didn't he, at Live Adelaide? So
which was 20 under.
Yeah.
124.
124, that's 5 back. Terrible.
Not silly. I remember the first time I broke 140 as a kid. I thought I was a superhero shooting 130-something. I thought honestly, that was a big deal back then. And now you got guys shooting 119.
Yeah, breaking 130, that's unbelievable as well.
Righto, it's time for the top 5.
Okay, so this week's top 5, Mark, you mentioned earlier about Lucas Glover. We're going to go with the top 5. I started writing when you mentioned it.
Yeah.
Top 5 golfers with ironic names.
Well, you've had no time. If you're any good. Because you've had no time to think of this.
Well, we'll see. We'll see.
Right,
the first one's a little, it's a soft opening, I'll say that, because we had the Wyndham Championship on the weekend, and why wasn't Wyndham Clark playing his own tournament?
That's fair enough.
That's what I want to know.
That's fair enough.
Okay, so there's number 5.
Yep.
Not having 7 this week either.
Yep.
Lucas Glover, number 4, plays with no glove, like that. Yep, no
Makes
problem
sense.
at all.
Fits on this list.
Yeah. Number 3. the man who apparently hits the ball out the toe, but his name is Adam Schenk.
Someone told me that his wear marks on his club are slightly in the toe.
Wow.
And his last name's Schenk.
I haven't seen him hit one.
I like that. That's
out of the Hosel Rocket.
That's
okay.
good.
Number 2, I used to play with this man a bit on the PGA Tour. Used to wear some horrific shirts.
Who?
Duffy Waldorf. That's his name.
Yeah.
Duffy is a flusher.
He's a flusher.
So it's pretty ironic to have that sort of a name.
I played behind him at the Lakes in 1992, and it was windy. Like as windy as it possibly gets. And he was a flusher, Duffy Waldorf.
Very good.
Okay. Complete flusher.
And number 1 for the most ironic name that I can think of on short notice, Korean golfer.
What?
His name is Song Yul No.
You'll know.
So his nickname is obviously Korean Karaoke.
Right.
However, apparently he's the only Korean that can't sing karaoke.
Song you'll know, can't sing.
Anyway.
Very good. Righto, it's time for the masterclass. Now, in round 1, I saw a golfer, and I apologise because I don't know her name in the Scottish Open, and she had a long bunker shot. It was at least 50 metres.
Well, that's tough.
And it was in that really grainy Scottish sand, and it was a bad lie. So picking the ball out was impossible. She hit a lovely shot. She hit it to 20 feet. 20 feet from a pot bunker.
Great result.
In a bad lie was a really... Anyway, when she came out, I saw her give a pitching wedge back to her caddy. And I thought, you're a very smart person. Because this is important. You don't have to hit bunker shots with the sand iron. You can actually do a lot. Now, when I was playing professionally, when I was practicing a lot, I could hit a lob wedge from anywhere from 10 feet, a nice high one, a 10-foot shot with a fair bit of club head speed, to probably, 50 metres with a good lie. But now that I don't practice hardly at all, I choose to use a pitching wedge or even a 9-iron for the longer bunker shots. And I just do exactly the same thing. It's still an explosion shot.
Play it the same way.
But you play it exactly the same way. You open the club face up, but instead of using the lob wedge, which is 60 degrees, you're not using the 55 or the 50 or the 45 with as a pitching wedge. You're actually using something that's about 42. So you can use a 42-degree 9-iron for long bunker shots.
Love it.
And it works an absolute treat. I'm going to put it, you know how we film them every week.
Yeah.
I know you do, and you'll be filming.
I will.
There's a spot there, and there are cars in the background.
Oh, this is going to test you
And
out.
I am super confident of hitting the 9-iron to the far edge of this screen, and I won't even go near those cars.
Okay, just give me a couple of minutes to shift mine.
Yes. Because I know if I was trying to do it with a lob wedge, trying to hit a long lob wedge these days, I couldn't do it. Not with any degree of accuracy.
Cars are in danger.
Yeah, and those cars would be in
Could
danger.
go pear-shaped, this one.
Hey, before we go, a very, very big week coming up too, because we've got the Open Championship. Where's it being played? Do we know?
The Women's Open is at Walton Heath in Surrey.
Ooh, this will be a good look for a lot of people.
I've never played there, but it looks like a fantastic golf course. The FedEx Cup playoffs start in Memphis, the St. Jude Classic. Live Golf is on again in Bedminster.
Yep.
And we've also got the US Women's Amateur on this week as well at Bel Air. We've got a few Aussies playing. We've got Justice Bozio, Caitlin Pearce, and the oldest competitor in the field is Sue Worcester.
Wow. Well, Justice, I love watching her play. Gee, I'd like to see her go deep into the match play. That would be great. A big hello to our 2 fans in Lafayette, and we'll see you next week.
Cheers, mate.
Oh, there it is. That's Nick O'Hearn and Mark Allen's podcast, Talk Birdie to Me. Now, if you haven't subscribed yet, make sure you hit subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts, and you'll never miss an episode. And if you can share with a friend, well, that'll be awesome too. Talk Birdie to Me's executive producer is Dan Bradley at Kaizen Media. Sound design, Daryl Misson at loudzebra.com. 2 fans. I wonder if we'll rank 3 at some point.
I tell you, well, I think we could get polled.
You're going to poll us the next target?
Well, I think if we hit on Adrian Moronk, Polish golfer,
Get him on the show.
I reckon we could grab a few from him. I'm sure he's got a nice following.
No, well, we'll give it a shot. I reckon those cars are a little in danger, Mark. Out in the car park.
No way.
Could be.